What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk of the Tundra, your Green Bay Packers podcast that is a proud partner of the Eurostep Podcast Network and the Blue Wire family. As always, I am your host, Numac, coming to you after the shortest of hiatuses after the Packers lost to the Lions last week on Thursday night. So a full week between you hearing from us, but we're ready to preview the Seattle Seahawks game coming up on Sunday. And to do that with me is my trusty co-host, Jordan Tresky. Jordan, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. Doing well. How about yourself?
I'm cold.
It is very
I'm in
cold.
the basement of my house as I usually am, and heat rises. Is all I'll say about that.
Heat does
Yeah,
rise.
doesn't stay
Uh,
down here very long.
no, much like the Dark Knight.
Shout out Rohan. I heard that's like Casino Royale or whatever other Bond movie he thought it was. I'm not really sure which one it was. Not Casino
It
Royale.
was
Skyfall.
Skyfall
Skyfall.
with Dark Knight. Dark Knight Rises is a different beast. That's
Yes.
more uh
You were born in the
the spy
darkness.
who the spy who loves me.
Hopefully, Rohan enjoys that impression and that reference. But before we get to the
Wait, did you
Seattle,
think that was me impersonating Rohan?
no, that
Oh,
you
okay.
impersonating Bane as whatever.
Sean Connery. Sean
That was
Connery
that a Sean
Bane.
Connery impression? I thought it was Bane because I did
It,
Bane.
it, it could be both.
Porque no los dos.
It could. Well, I mean, both Sean Connery and Bane have a very similar, brah,
Yeah,
like
Tom
that.
Tom Hardy and Sean Connery are the same people. Pretty sure it's Tom
Different.
Hardy.
It is Tom Hardy.
Okay, I had
It's certainly
podcast
not
brain
Ed
there.
Hardy.
It's definitely not Ed Hardy. He was way too reserved in his clothing to be Ed Hardy. It wasn't Matt or Jeff Hardy either. He didn't do too many ladder moves.
Yeah, ladder jumps, whatever the hell that's called.
Yeah, no swanton bombs or things like that. I was a wrestling head as a kid. Leave me alone. But before we get
Might have to unpack that in a primo episode.
maybe we just might. You can find all those primos, by the way, at gspn.substack.com. GSPN After Dark's always a lot of fun as we get on these little off-bit tangents that we actually get to dive into over there and not on the main pods when you're here to talk about Packer stuff. So let's do just that. Cheese board for the game against the Lions. Short one for candidates this week, as I think a lot of people had a lot of good games, but there wasn't really a whole lot of standouts. So starting off with Jordan Love, 12 of 20, 206 passing yards and a touchdown, 83.8 PFF grade. Next up was Kenny Clark, a tackle for a loss to go with his 8 tackles and 5 of which were solo, an 80.1 PFF grade. Keyshawn Nixon, 10 tackles, 3 of which were solo, and an interception, and a 76.4 PFF grade. Christian Watson, 4 catches on 7 targets, 114 receiving yards, and the critical fumble. And then Josh Jacobs, 18 carries, 66 rushing yards, and 3 touchdowns. A 68.7 PFF grade for Josh Jacobs. Who are you looking to give some cheeses to this week? This week, Jordan, because I'm torn. I think Josh Jacobs for sure.
Yeah, 3 touchdowns is nothing to sneeze at, and I'm certainly not sneezing.
No, no allergies
Um,
for you today.
it, this is where it gets hard. You know what? I'm gonna go. I think my three would be Jacobs, Jordan Love,
Really?
Kenny Clark.
I think I'd rather give one to Keyshawn than Jordan Love. Jordan Love didn't really like. I don't think he had a great game. Like I think part of it was just the game plan that kind of shook out. Like 206 passing yards isn't a huge stat night. 12 of 20 isn't a great completion percentage. He only had the one touchdown. Like I don't really know.
So you say Jacobs, Kenny, Nixon?
Yeah, mostly because like 8 tackles is pretty good for Kenny Clark. He had a pretty good game. Um,
Run defense too.
Yeah, run defense was pretty good uh, last Thursday, and like Keyshawn Nixon made a pretty important play in the game in context of like the game itself. Like that was a pretty important turnover they had there.
Now, what if I included this stat that I regrettably did not include?
Go for it.
10 targets, 7 catches, 66 yards per PFF. Does that sway you?
Not
Even
really.
though he had,
He's the
even
number
though
one
he had
corner last
this,
week.
well, it's, you know,
Like someone's got to have the ball thrown at him, and it was, you know what? Go back to PFF and tell me who was the
yes.
most on the team, because I bet you it wasn't him.
For targets?
No, for yards
For yards.
or targets, honestly,
Targets,
because
he
Jared Goff
had
threw
the most
41
targets.
times.
He had the most targets thrown at him. He did not, he was 2 yards shy of the allowing the most receiving yards.
Eric Stokes led the other one.
No.
Uh, Carrington Valentine. No, he
No,
didn't play.
think middle of the
Oh, Isaiah
middle of
McDuffie.
the, oh yeah.
Yeah,
9 targets, 9 catches, 68 yards, maybe.
yeah. Um,
With a touchdown.
I mean, like I said, I think at some point, like you just have to throw at somebody, and yeah, I'm fine with Keyshawn if that's the case, you know.
I can be swayed. I'm swayed.
Like yeah, 'cause I don't really know else you'd give it to. Like Quay had, because like Isaiah McDuffie had 15 tackles, but like you said, he was absolutely abysmal in coverage. Quay had another like good game, but I don't think it rose to the occasion kind of thing. Yeah,
Christian Watson had the fumble.
that's I struggle to give him the cheese with that fumble.
Yeah.
Like if I think if he doesn't have the fumble, it's Keyshawn, Jacobs, Watson for me. But I struggle to give him that considering it was such a big turn in the game. So are you
It
comfortable with Kenny, Keyshawn, and Josh Jacobs?
it is set in stone. I'm very comfortable with that.
Alrighty. Those three fellas, congratulations on earning your cheese this week. I forget if that's Kenny's first this year. It might be. But
I'm checking the archive right now.
well, I I think it might be, unless we gave him one last week or 2 weeks ago now. But
It is his first of the season.
well, there we go, Kenny. Good job. Nice job. Nice job. Love to see it. Moving on to present time, present news. Packers signed offensive lineman Michael Jordan. He's coming out of basketball retirement to be signed to the Packers practice squad. Um, and
Oh,
they released the tackle Spencer Rowland. I believe. Remind me, Jordan, where did Michael Jordan play prior to him getting cut this year? The
I think it was the
Bengals, right?
Bulls.
What
The
was it? Sorry,
Bulls.
one more time.
The Bulls.
Okay, I thought you were saying that. I was like, I don't think it was the Bills.
No, I think it was the Tar Heels. Sorry. Bullets. Wizards. That's it. The Birmingham Barons.
Go ahead.
I believe everybody, okay, this is what I've noticed. This is me be on top of it. When Michael Jordan, the football player, signs with a football team, everybody makes Michael Jordan jokes, as we have done.
Yeah,
So he's kind of hopped around. I know he was with the Patriots at some point.
yeah, he was at the Bengals for 2 years.
He signed to the Packers practice squad. If
This offseason, I think we made this whole slate of jokes this year.
it was either this offseason or last year, is
Yeah,
that they needed some
he
reinforcements.
was
Clearly.
he played for New England this year. He was their starting guard for most of the year until he wasn't.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's not like a tough look for him because like it's fine, whatever. But he did win that job in New England, and then they have been pretty bad on the offensive line all year long, and then subsequently now like lost the job and was cut. So I think I would imagine at this point the Michael Jordan signing is purely depth on the practice squad. And like you said, I'm pretty sure that the Packers signed him to their practice squad at some point earlier in the offseason. I'm looking at his
I'll go to his
transactions.
Wikipedia
I'm
because
looking at it
you are.
right now. Yeah, last year it was On September 12th, 2023, the Packers signed Michael Jordan to the practice squad. Seemingly spent the entire 2023 season with the Packers, and then the Patriots signed him to a reserve slash future contract in January. He was released from the Patriots training camp, or like he was part of like the training camp cuts, signed to the practice squad, and then has been elevated up and down all year long. So I think he's played in it's like to be 12 games this year. So he's been playing most of the year for them. Regardless of that point, kind of a we'll see type of prospect. If the Packers like them enough to bring him back in, maybe they see some way they can try and get him better and have him as a depth piece again moving forward. But I think this is an interesting, not interesting in so much that like it needs now this long of conversation about it, but rather like there's decisions that are needing to be made about Josh Myers and Sean Ryan coming up this offseason. And what do you do on your line without the depth there kind of thing? And so I don't think Michael Jordan is like an answer there, but he's a guy that has NFL reps for the past 5 years and could be a depth piece. And if they find some way to make his form better to become a better lineman, then it's a pretty simple signing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's also the immediate of, as we'll get into, Jordan Morgan doesn't appear to be returning anytime soon because he was spotted with a sling
Yeah.
during practice on the sidelines. My question is, if you got Michael Jordan, who's going to be your Scottie Pippen, your Scott Pippen?
Oh man.
How many rings would you th think the Packers would have won if Scottie Pippen was an offensive lineman for the Green Bay Packers?
Probably none.
I don't know. He was asking some interesting questions about how many rings would the Bulls have won if,
We're moving on.
that next dude.
We're moving on. Um, Packers defensive lineman Jonathan Ford was nabbed by the Bears to their practice squad, and the Packers signed defensive lineman Jeremiah Martin to replace him. Those pesky Bears can frig off. Then Luke Musgrave, second year tight end, returned to practice after his ankle surgery, which has kept him out since week 4, and he's now on the 21-day time frame to return from injured reserve. And then, as Jordan mentioned briefly a little bit ago, Jordan Morgan was on the sideline this week for practice, but he was wearing a sling on his right shoulder. Probably won't be back anytime soon, if not this year at all. So definitely not great in terms of having your guys contribute when they're relatively needed. But I don't think he's missed so much right now with how well Sean Ryan's been playing. So get healthy and just let's all knock on some wood that the offensive line can stay healthy for the rest of their run this season.
If so, Jordan Morgan would currently has 186 snaps to his name this year. Um, yeah,
It's not a whole lot.
not a whole lot, but we'll probably look at this as like we would with Marshawn Lloyd, or it's
Yeah.
just kind of a red shirt rookie year. Say that fast 5 times.
Red shirt rookie year, red shirt rookie year, red shirt rookie year, red shirt rookie year, red shirt rookie year. I got you.
That that's pretty good.
I'm pretty bad at enunciating. So, um, I think it puts the Packers in a tough position moving forward that a few of their guys aren't really getting a whole lot of run this year and are out due to injury. Like with decisions coming up on Josh Myers, Sean Ryan, Emmanuel Wilson, like and others, particularly like I think Quay Walker's up for his 5th-year option, if I'm not mistaken, this coming off
This
season.
is
And Edgerrin Cooper has been out the last few weeks with an injury. Um, it's these injuries aren't making it easy on the Packers with decisions that need to be made this offseason. Like I think if Jordan Morgan is healthy all year long, and you get an extended look at him, maybe you're more comfortable moving on from one of the guys that were aforementioned. But it just makes it a little bit difficult that way. And I think we can tell that Edgerrin Cooper can play, and that doesn't really make Quay that much of decision this offseason. Like if Quay keeps playing the way he has the past few weeks, I think that decision gets exponentially harder at the better he plays through the end of the season. Just because you've had what 2 years of Quay being an average-ish linebacker and prone to making some pretty dumb mistakes, both after the play is over and during play.
Yeah,
But he's been playing his ass off the last few weeks, and I think if he plays like that the rest of the year, you're more inclined to give him that fifth year option. And so, yeah, the injuries aren't helping the Packers assess what they have and what they are comfortable moving on from. And so, nothing you can do about it now. These guys are injured. That's just the way it's going to be. But just something to keep in mind for us as well as fans when it comes to decisions that need to be made this offseason.
absolutely.
So with that, let's get into the matchup with the Seattle Seahawks. Packers are 12-8 lifetime against the Seahawks in the regular season. God, that one is really bad. 3-1 against the Seahawks when they meet against each other in the playoffs, and 1-5 since playing in Seattle at Lumen Field, which I forget what it was called before that. It's CenturyLink.
Quest,
CenturyLink was
CenturyLink 2.
yeah,
That stadium's only been open for what, like 20-ish years, and it's had
something
three
like that. Because
naming rights
didn't they play in a
difference.
dome since then, or
They did. They
before
played. That was
CenturyLink?
originally the Kingdom.
There's no way it was actually called the Kingdom.
Yeah, it was.
I don't like that name because of how punny it is. Like,
Seattle's on it, baby.
I guess big Seattle naming rights fan, Jordan Tresky over here with the puns.
I just when you're playing Madden and you're going through all these stadiums, you're like, oh, they got a new one. Whoa! Because it's Seattle is in King County.
Oh, interesting, interesting. That would make
Hmm.
sense then. So
King Dome.
I don't know why that inflection was there, but I'll let it rock. So the Seahawks season thus far, they come in 8-5 and are first in the NFC West. Hot to trot after a brief, not even a brief, a month long winning streak against their rivals. They beat the Niners and they beat the Cardinals, and not the Jets as the rival, but they beat them too. And they went into Arizona last week and whooped up on the Cardinals again. So they're starting to pull away with this division here, as I think they have a game or two up on their counterparts, or just
So
one game.
they even the season series against the
Niners.
49ers, they will play the Rams in the final game of the season.
Yep.
The Rams and 49ers in a game that is currently a monsoon in San Francisco are tied 6-6, which
Yuck.
keep in mind very shortly. Keep in
Oh
mind
yeah, yeah,
shortly.
yeah. That actually does matter.
Yes, it does.
um, they come into Sunday, like I said, riding that 4 game win streak, and their plus 19 point differential is the lowest of the projected NFC playoff teams, and they are currently the third seed in the playoff picture entering Week 15, because the NFC South is actually just worse than the West is. So this division still up for grabs. The Seahawks play their final few games, once I pull their page back up, they play the Packers and then they go Vikings, Bears, Rams. So not exactly an easy schedule for them down the stretch, especially with the Bears playing similar or better-ish football under, I forget his name, their offensive coordinator after Shane Waldron, Tom something, Tom,
We have the Bears.
yeah, the Bears head coach,
Thomas Brown,
Thomas Brown. Um,
who is now the interim coach.
yeah, I'll say that the
Yeah.
Seahawks have Packers, Vikings, Bears, Rams to end the season, and none of those are really easy considering.
Oh my.
Shut up. So
We forgot one. I know we're talking about the Seahawks. Did you see that the fan that Matt LaFleur was yelling at?
yeah, I got a piece on it. Yeah, we're not gonna talk about it. I'm not talking about it.
Why?
It's stupid. It's stupid.
That he got his season tickets revoked?
Oh, I didn't see that. That's
You didn't see that?
no. That I saw that he was interviewed by local TV. he got a local TV spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Well, yes,
that was
that's
stupid.
stupid. That's stupid. But yeah, he got his season tickets revoked.
Good.
Um, and
Screw that guy.
he told the Detroit News, the biggest gut punch, man. Just waking up and seeing that email and not being able to talk to somebody in person, it was a terrible feeling. I don't have my chance to give my side of the story or anything. He continued, this has been my identity my whole life, and it's just ripped away from me over a small incident. It definitely could have been avoided on my end. I would let the Lions know I'm sorry that I embarrassed this team. Like this really wasn't my intention. I would like to apologize to anyone and do anything I could get back in the stadium supporting my team.
Somebody fucked around, and somebody found out.
Yeah.
I have no sympathy whatsoever. If you act like a jackass on the field as a fan, as part of this little ceremony that they do, you're asking for trouble. That's just you're just you're.
That's our
Hey,
coach.
hey! Reaping, hell yeah, love reaping. Sowing, what the fuck?
Yeah. Don't talk to Matt like that.
Yeah, leave him alone, man.
That's what I would say.
That's what
Anyway,
I'm saying.
back to the Seahawks.
Back to the Seahawks. Um, this game pretty big for both teams. Packers need to get back on track after a loss to the Lions, as we mentioned earlier. Seahawks need to win this game to keep pace in the NFC West and keep their playoff spot because almost assuredly there is not a second team from the NFC West making the playoffs. So the Packers have an unlikely road to clinching a playoff berth this week, but they need to win, and I think this is all three, Jordan, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Uh, they need to win, have the Falcons lose, and have um Falcons lose or tie to the Raiders, and have the Niners and Rams and then a tie. And score update: the Rams just kicked a field goal, so it's 9-6 with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So we'll probably have that game uh, known for us probably by the time we end this podcast.
We
But
definitely will.
well, if it goes to overtime, probably not.
Well, yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah,
But
but regardless, the Packers there is a chance that they clinch a playoff berth this week. Um, but outside of that, they'll most likely need to clinch a couple of weeks down the line. But having to do so, they need to win games, and that is item number one, which will be a tough time to do because honestly, the injury report is pretty lengthy once again. But we're getting some folks back. Uh, Starting with the Packers, Jair was a full participant in practice Wednesday and Thursday with his uh, MCL sprain in his knee or PCL. I forget which one it was. I think it was PCL, if not mistaken.
yeah,
Um, he was a full participant. Corey Ballantyne with a knee injury, he was limited both days. Javon Bullard with his ankle was a DNP both days. He was in a boot walking out of Detroit, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't think an IR sent for him, but definitely I would almost assuredly not anticipate him playing this week. Kenny Clark had rest. He was limited on Thursday. Edrin Cooper with his hamstring was limited both days. Romeo Dobbs with his concussion as he works his way back from that was a full participant both days. Backup tackle Travis Glover was sick and he was a full participant on Thursday. Elton Jenkins had a limited participation on Thursday with his rest as a veteran. Isaiah McDuffie and Luke Musgrave were both limited, both working their way back from ankle injuries. Obviously, Luke coming back from uh, his IR stint, as we mentioned earlier. Josh Myers still nursing his pectoral muscle after he got truck sticked by Tucker Kraft a few weeks ago. He was a full participant both days. Lucas Van Ness has a thumb injury. He was a full participant both days. Rasheed Walker was a full participant with a knee injury on Wednesday, back down to limited on Thursday. And Evan Williams limited on Wednesday, but a full participant on Thursday with his concussion as he makes his way back from his. So, long list there, but I regret to tell you folks that the Seahawks list is even longer, so please bear with me.
buckle up.
Buckle up. It's quite long. Cornerback Trey Brown has a hamstring injury. He was a DNP both days. Cornerback Artie Burns has a toe injury. He's working his way back from IR. He was a full participant both days. Michael Dixon, their punter, has a back injury. He was a full participant on Thursday. Stone Forsythe, a tackle, has a hand injury, working his way back from IR, was a full participant both days. Ernest Jones the fourth, a linebacker, has a knee injury and but was also resting on Wednesday. He was a DMP and then subsequently a limited participant in practice. Veteran receiver Tyler Lockett was resting. He was a full participant on Thursday. Abraham Lucas, their tackle, had a knee injury. He was a DMP on Thursday. I believe rested Wednesday, if I would assume so, and then a DMP Thursday, so keep an eye out for that. Uh, Boye Mafe was a rest. He is full participant on Thursday. DK Metcalf has a shoulder injury that cropped up. He was a full participant on Wednesday and limited on Thursday. Uchenna Nuwasu has a thigh injury. He was a full participant on Wednesday and Thursday. Former Packer Jaron Reed was a full participant after some vet rest. Safety Jarek Reed the second has a quad injury. He was a DMP both days. Tight end, backup tight end Brady Russell has a foot injury. He was a DMP on Thursday. Uh, Star running back Kenneth Walker the third has a calf injury. He was a DMP both days. Safety Kavon Wallace has an ankle injury coming back from IR. He was coming back. Coming back from IR. He was a full participant on both days. And defensive end Leonard Williams was resting as also has a foot injury. He was a DMP on Wednesday and a limited participant on Thursday. A lot of players on that injury report for the Seattle Seahawks. So getting out of there with a win would be pretty good for the Packers, honestly. Obviously, to state the obvious, but versus a team that is has a couple of their stars like on the injury report, right? Like DK Metcalf had with his injury, and then Kenneth Walker probably isn't going to play. Weirdly enough, I guess I think that's where I want to start with this team is that Kenneth Walker had been the starter pretty much all year long. He was doing well, but then he goes down with his calf injury, I believe, 2 weeks ago, and Zachary Charbonnet comes in and starts for them last week. And for a team that has been really bad running the ball this year, they absolutely just ran the ball all over the Cardinals last week. They finished with 176 rushing yards. Zach Charbonnet had 22 carries, 134 yards, and 2 touchdowns against the Cardinals. On the season, the Seattle Seahawks are 27th in the NFL in total rushing yards. Only the Cowboys, Bengals, Browns, Jets, and Raiders are worse. So,
That's shocking.
yeah, it's mostly because their line has been pretty bad uh, run blocking. It's been like arguably one of the worst in the NFL, and they've been doing just fine, like getting uh, like pass blocking. I'm trying to make sure I can find this find these because I'm sure there's a sack thing here. The Seahawks have allowed, if I can find their line, the ninth most sacks, but average in the NFL is 32. They've allowed 40, and so
Ooh.
not great, but not super bad either. So their line has been good to okay, but they've been really bad run blocking, and that's again to no fault of Kenneth Walker or Zachary Charbonnet. Those are two really good running backs. I think
Yeah.
they found something last week, and I that'll be something very critical to watch for this week as the Packers come into this game. If they can't stop the run and limit the Seahawks to what they were doing in the previous 11 games or 12 games this season, that'll be bad because like this is not a good running team. The Packers should be able to handle this offensive line with their defensive front. But if the Seahawks maintain the momentum that they had against the Cardinals and are opening up holes for Zachary Charbonnet to go run for 130, 150 yards, that's going to be pretty critical in the flow of this game, I'm pretty sure. And could honestly be the outcome of the game. If they can't stop the run against this team, I think that'll be a sign that the defense isn't necessarily up to the task of winning this game this week.
Which they have been doing more encouragingly.
Agreed.
You
Yeah,
know, last.
they've been doing pretty well against the run in recent games.
But yeah, to your point, like this is. It could be the shift from Kenneth Walker to Zach Charbonnet, where maybe something's clicked, or maybe it's his running style that suits the O line better, like in a very C level Aaron Jones to Josh Jacobs kind of way. Who knows? Um,
I wouldn't
but yeah,
say
I think
so much of that, just because like it's not like Zachary Charbonnet hasn't been around. Kenneth Walker has 145 attempts this year to Charbonnet's three. Or, I'm sorry, 97, and Charbonnet started 3 games in Kenneth Walker's absence.
that's
So
true.
like they're very like I don't want to say running back by committee, but they were running Kenneth Walker with like as like the bell cow kind of thing. But then it's not like Charbonnet was just not there. He's been
Yeah,
running on this team all year.
you need your starter wines, and then you get
Exactly.
to your and then you get to your Charbonnet.
Yeah. God damn it. God damn it.
That's yeah, that's the end of my analysis.
Yeah, but like I don't want to compare because I don't want to call either. I think the issue I've had with the Walker Charbonnet backfield is I feel like just in the few games that I've seen like I've watched of the Seahawks, they're very similar in running style, um, as opposed to like David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs are very different, right? David
Yeah,
Montgomery is north south, Jahmyr Gibbs very east west, and quick and twitchy and stuff like that. I feel like the Kenneth Walker and Zachary Charbonnet don't differentiate so much in their running style, and so with that, I would like to see again, like I said, the defensive front really get downfield and get some tackles for loss and stuff these runs, and again see Quay Walker continue to be the force he's been in the run game the last month. Because if he can do that, I think the Packers have a good chance of winning this game. If Devontae Wyatt can build on um, the momentum he had earlier in the season and be good against the run. If Kenny Clark can build off his momentum, like I think this is the Packers
Lucas Van
should win
Ness.
this game. Lucas on S two, like the Packers should win this game, and for nothing else than that, the Packers have been good against the run against the good running backs for the last month, and so with that, I would like to see this continue on the road, which they did last week against Montgomery and Gibbs, and let's just go out there and win the trenches. I think that's going to be a big point for this team. Like I don't care if they don't get home to Geno Smith that much this game. If they get a sack, that's obviously great. Like you want sacks, but I think if they can just make Geno Smith throw 50 times during the game, that'll be just fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of this too is that have to we already mentioned, but we have to reiterate this very well could be a playoff preview. Packers are
Very
currently
much
the
so.
sixth seed. Seahawks are the third seed. Real time update that people already know how this will go. The Rams are still beating the Rams are still beating the 49ers 9-6 with 3 minutes left. Um, which should obviously set up more stakes for the Seahawks that they can't lose the game moving forward. Like
Yep.
it very well could be that the last game of the year for the Seahawks and Rams will determine who wins the division.
I think there's a good chance that that's the Sunday night game, Week 18.
Oh yeah.
Like if it comes down to it, I really don't see the NFL flexing the
If
NFC.
it means too that I mean I doubt it based on how the playoff picture has been. Um, but I could be wrong. Actually, I probably am not wrong. It won't mean. Well, would it mean that someone bounces out? Yeah, it could actually.
What do you mean?
That
You gotta reiterate your
whoever loses will be out of the playoff picture.
yeah yeah because
Yeah,
I don't think either of those teams unless the Commanders really slide.
Commanders. It's yeah. It's up. It's
The
the ball's
Commanders
in their court that way.
yeah, the Commanders hold their own destiny to secure a wild card playoff, but they have to keep playing the rest of the year. They're 8-5, and so uh, if the Rams hang on against the Niners, they'll be 8-6, and if the Seahawks lose on Sunday, they'll be 8-6 with a month left to go in the season. So or 3 games left to go in the season. So yeah, it'll be an interesting end of the season for sure for them, but there'll be a lot of pressure. Like I think we're gonna get the Seahawks' best game no matter what on Sunday because that's just what they need to do to win. But uh, it starts with the run game for them. If they can get the run game going, I think that'll be very critical to their win condition per se. But that's not to say that they're not talented on at throwing the ball either, right? Like
Yeah.
Geno
Oh,
Smith's
yeah.
renaissance has been well documented, and they have talented pass catchers in DK Metcalf if he plays. Obviously, like we had mentioned that um, he's nursing an injury, but then Tyler Lockett has been doing well this year as well. He has a touchdown and 263, or my wrong line, two touchdowns and 511 yards. And then Jackson Smith McJigba has been a revelation for them in his sophomore season. And so he has 911 yards, 75 catches, and five touchdowns. He's their touchdown reception leader. And so it'll be,
He's our overall leader in targets,
yeah,
catches, yards,
reception.
and touchdowns.
Yep, he's definitely the number one receiver this year. And like Jair going into this week being healthy is going to be important. I'm not really sure who he covers, right? I think he's too small to cover DK Metcalf, and I think he's probably going to be on Tyler Lockett or JSN. Uh, Side note, makes me very not sad, but like JSN, my draft darling from year one, right? Doing doing great things. That they're neither here nor there, just whatever. But regardless, he's good. He's very fast, very talented, and Gino has like very much found his chemistry with him. Last year it was kind of and also Shane Waldron was there, and JSN had very few things to say about Shane Waldron because he didn't want to be a dickhead. But regardless, I think there's been a good offense throwing the ball this year. Uh, Geno Smith has I can find his passing touchdowns, 14 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. So not a great ratio, but I'm not going to say sit here and say he's not talented. He's got 3,500 yards on the season so far and a 69.5 passer completion percentage. So he's able to throw it. I just think they like to punch it in with Charbonnet and Walker, who both have 7 touchdowns each on the ground.
Yeah, I think the weapons here clearly lie in their um, pass catchers. And JSN's emergence has been helped by DK Metcalf as a fantasy owner of him. Um, Missed a game or two, if I'm not mistaken. Tyler Lockett's been still effective, but I believe on the other side of 30. Kind of, this is the succession plan that they awaited or anticipated when they drafted him. So him emerging in his second year is right on track kind of thing. And yeah, it's I think the biggest worry of this, last week we saw a lot of the not dink and dump, but did I say dump?
You did say dump.
I did say dump. I'm gonna stick with
Dink and
that.
dunk.
Dink and dunk, you know, the kind of offense that if you're a fan of that team, you might get your season tickets revoked. You know what I
Come
mean?
on.
Sorry. Um, but the Lions gassed the Packers, especially in the second half with
Yeah.
the movement, the yardage that they piled up. And it was pretty success. I mean, obviously, it was super successful in how they just dismantled their, with screens and stuff like that. I think this is a more vertical type team in how they pass, but it's still, you're still trying to take away the big play. You mentioned Jair. That's the big key is that he, even in his limited form, and hopefully he can make it through this game if he's going to play, but it just helps the likes of Keyshawn Nixon, Carrington Valentine, Eric Stokes. It just the secondary just gets really thin, especially on the outside. And so having Jair out there just kind of is the rising tide that lifts all boats right now. But you just hope that based on the weapons that they have with those three receivers in particular, that having a healthy cornerback room will certainly help mitigate some of the concerns going into this game.
Yeah, for sure. Like if Jair can actually lock down whoever he's guarding, that'll be helpful because you take one of those guys out of that three-headed dragon, and it's just gonna be a better chance for success for the defense in general, right? Like I don't know who he's gonna cover. I'd imagine it's gonna be JSN, honestly, but I really don't
I would
know.
think so.
And then maybe Keyshawn on DK, and I don't know who on Tyler Lockett, but regardless, if you can limit JSN's success, I think that'll be a pretty critical win condition for them because he's very good and he has the ability to take the top off the defense and and get some pretty gnarly yards. I wish I could find Geno Smith's average depth of target, but I really am struggling to do so. As oh my god, did you know that Geno Smith is second in total yards this season?
I did know that.
I don't know why this team's 8-5. I feel like they should be a little bit better than that with the stats that they have around them. You know what I mean?
They this is Seattle though. It's like they're a good football team, but they're always in these like crazy one score games that come down the
Yeah.
wire. Yeah, I mean, look at their point differentials very indicative of that, but like the I'm just looking through these games. The way that they won games, like the 49ers game was like insane how they won that game.
Mm-hmm.
The back in week 11.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's the Seattle way. This is how they are. I don't understand it.
Yeah. For reference, Geno Smith's average depth of target this year is 6.9 yards, 27th in the league. Um, you can probably bump that up to like 24th amongst, yeah, 24th amongst 25th amongst team players that have started all season. Because like Anthony Richardson is here, so is Russell Wilson and Dak Prescott and
Oh yeah.
Drake May and guys like that. But for guys that have played all year long, he's probably up in like 23, 24. League average is 7.6, so pretty close to a full yard less than that. I think that probably comes at the fact that they have just two good running backs out of the backfield too. But
Mm.
um, I mean, even then, I'm looking at um, intended air yards too. Like Geno Smith is pretty. I could actually find where he was, but that that went away. I don't know where where his page went. Maybe that'll help. But regardless of the point, they are talented. He's ninth in intended air yards, so they do like to throw deep. And so, for context, he's around Justin Herbert and Lamar Jackson at 8 and 10 there. So, curiously enough, Jordan Love not too far behind him at 14th. So around average
That
for
makes
him.
sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. But regardless of all that, like this game will be tough for the defenses because I think the weapons they have are plentiful. Like they just have they're kind of like the Packers where they have a good top four, and you have to be disciplined in your top four to really make sure that you don't get beat in some embarrassing ways. Because even outside of the wide receivers, their tight end is Noah Fant. Like he's their top
Yep.
guy, and he's nothing to turn your nose up at. He doesn't really have a whole lot of big stats this year, but 33 catches on 40 targets and 17 first downs on those 33 targets. That's pretty darn good. Like if half the time you're catching the ball is the first down, you take that, right? And so,
Hmm.
uh, glad to see him having a bit of a resurgence after getting cut, or rather traded to Seattle from Denver a few years ago.
Noah Font.
Noah Font, don't you want a Fanta? You can't air me out like that after all the jokes you've told. That was rude.
I thought you were gonna say Noah Font, um, Comic Sans.
That's where you thought I was going?
I don't know.
Noah Font Comic Sans. All right, let's go.
Just
Yeah.
I I'm just throwing these things out.
Oh, you're just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks, huh?
Yeah.
Alrighty, let's go the other side of the ball for both teams. Uh Packers obviously coming in this game, hopefully getting Romeo Dobbs back, but for all intents and purposes, their specialists are all healthy. And so if we can roll into this game with Romeo Dobbs, I think that would be a huge plus for them. Just because, like as we mentioned earlier, the Seahawks are a bit banged up across their defense. And so if we can get into this game and, like I said, just really have the offense hum like it's meant to and how it's kind of looked the past few weeks, that'd be a plus. I'd be all for that because the Seahawks defense isn't exactly a powerhouse getting after Jordan Love. Only uh 32 sacks on the season. That's just about league average. Packers are one ahead of them at 33. Uh, they have I'd say a fairly high QB knockdown rate at 11.5%. It's good for about seventh in the league. And so pressure percent for the Seahawks, however, is still about league average at 24%. So
Mhm.
if they can keep Jordan Love upright, which they've been able to do for a decent chunk of this season so far, I think they'll be just fine. It'll just be a matter of making sure that Jordan Love's hitting his targets and going from there. Like 12 of 20 against the Lions isn't totally bad, but when you're only throwing 20 times, you got to make the most of those situations, right? And
Yep.
the the defensive front for the Seahawks isn't exactly like super duper injured. They only have one guy on IR, which is like funny to say, but they have for the most part they're healthy, right? Like Jared Reed's there, Leonard Williams is there, two guys that are both capable of getting home to the quarterback. And so, I mean, even then, you got to deal with Devin Witherspoon on the backside, and he's pretty darn good as a
Yeah.
corner.
You mentioned the sacks and pressures overall. The Seahawks rank 11th in pressure rate too. Mike McDonald, obviously with a very defensive-minded background and being the rising star coordinator turn head coach. Um, Packers really haven't had any experience playing against someone like him. That that itself can kind of throw a wrinkle in how this game is or game plans going in for Matt LaFleur and company. Um, Devin Witherspoon is obviously a star cornerback that I would imagine. It'll be interesting who goes. I would maybe it's Christian Watson. You kind of eliminate the big play threat from him, but still, like it's not the Legion of Boom Seahawks that I think, regardless of whether they have the talent or not, that's always just going to be associated with whatever defense that they have now.
Yeah,
But it's still a very functional and effective defense that more or less gives them room to work or gets them the job done because in a lot of ways it's been the offense that has the productivity but just hasn't had the execution in a lot of ways.
yeah. Seahawks are 15th in the league in total yards allowed. Right about that middle of the pack, 18th in the league. For total yards per play at 5.5. They do generate turnovers. They have 15 on the season. So again, middle of the pack. It's not like they're bad at doing that. And so 11 of those turnovers were interceptions. So that's probably a good chunk of Devin Witherspoon and the pressure he creates. And so it'll be tough. Like you said, they're a tough defense for the sole purpose that they have Mike McDonald as their head coach after coming over from,
Mhm.
I believe, Baltimore, if I'm not mistaken. And so curiously, I'm watching this game now. Not watching box score watching. Uh, First and 10 for San Francisco at their own 37 with 18 seconds left. They're down by six. So we won't get a tie unless some crazy stuff happens. But it looks like one of these teams is winning this ball game. So the Packers will have to wait to clinch until next week probably, or the week after, whatever. But
Yeah.
um, the Packers defense, or I'm sorry, the Seahawks defense is just stout. They have Byron Murphy as the backup. Like he was their first round pick this year. Only a half sack on the season. He's um, got 10 tackles, but it's hard to just to kind of break in there with Leonard Williams and Jaron Reed in there. But I mean, they're talented, dude. They're gonna be hard to play, and honestly, like just let's get Josh Jacobs going again as they've been doing throughout this season. The Seahawks are 12th in the league in total rushing yards allowed is 1,650, and then for passing yards, they're down near the bottom at 23rd in the league, or 20. I'd be the other way around. They'd be 10th,
Ninth or eighth?
10th. But yeah,
Okay.
I don't know the backwards of that, but yeah, 10th in the league. And so let me make sure I had that stat right. They've allowed the sorry, they're 21st in the league for rushing yards. My apologies. They've allowed more. 12th worst essentially. And
Yeah.
so get Josh Jacobs going, man. Win the trenches. Let's see if this offensive line get after their defensive line. Make those holes wide open for Josh Jacobs. Maybe we see a beast mode touchdown. That'd be pretty cool. I mean, if there's one
Recreate
guy
it.
recreate it, if there's one guy that can bounce off tackles and get to the end zone on this team, it's Josh Jacobs, right?
Yes, yes, it is.
I saw a crazy stat, not pertaining to Josh Jacobs, but pertaining to running backs. If you take out all of Saquon's first half rushing yards this season, he is still third in the league for total yards at like over 1,000. I think he's at
I mean, I
1,100
get that.
yards just in the second half. Has
We saw the,
nothing to do with the Seahawks or Packers, but I saw that stat. Like that's crazy.
you brought up Saquon Barkley. I brought up the Lions season ticket holder. X.
Not the same
Well, I'm
whatsoever.
just saying the tangents,
Sure. My point
side
was
stories.
my side story in my brain. The train of thought was Josh Jacobs third in the league in rushing yards, also third in the league in yards after contact. Was where I was going with that. Also, I apologize. Uh, Josh Jacobs. Oh no, he is third in the league at 10:53.
Yeah.
So good for Josh Jacobs. 11 touchdowns, second in the league. Tied, or I'm sorry, tied for third. Tied
I
for
mean, he's had what,
fourth.
five?
Tied for yeah, third.
How many touchdowns he's
Uh,
had like eight in the last 3 weeks?
Something like that.
It's
Because
something crazy.
it took him a while to get started, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we were waiting for it and then
Yeah. Then
just
the dam was
flowing.
broke. Yeah. Derrick Henry and Jalen Hurts have 13. Kyron Williams, Dave Montgomery both have 12. And then Saquon, Jacobs, Mixon, and James Cook all have 11. So,
Jimmy Cook.
yeah. All right, Jordan. Anything else you want to talk about pertaining to the Seahawks game, or should we get into what to watch for, or players to watch?
No, I think we let's clue in on some of the weapons, some of the matchups, the whatever have you have nots.
All right. It is your turn to go first this week.
I'm gonna go JSN Jackson Smith Ninjigba.
All right.
Um, yeah, just number one wide receiver, secondary blown to bits in a lot of ways. Um, I wonder. Part of it is the threat that he poses to the Packers defense. Part of it is just the health, the current state of the secondary, specifically cornerbacks. Jair returning helps, but he only played 10 plays in the Bears game when he made his return, and then got hurt again or re-aggravated it. So it's I I, I think Smith Najigba has the best chance of really kind of. I shouldn't say best chance because DK is really good, but he's had kind of a down year, I would say, based on again having him in fantasy, uh, injuries and things just kind of piling up for him. I think JSN is more equipped to kind of really gash this Packers pass defense in a lot of different ways.
I think the main thing with that is that the Packers have been really susceptible to being burned in the middle, and that's exactly where he's going to work. Like, if he's going to have either Quay or Isaiah McDuffie or whomever on him in the slot, it's kind of barbecue chicken at that point. If it's
Yeah.
not Jair, and so that's where I get worried is that can whoever's guarding JSN cover him over the middle, and that's kind of a tough ask to do, especially if he's running like a slant, a short slant over the middle, or a crossing route. Like he's fast. It's hard to keep up with him as a linebacker, and I think that'll kind of be there all day for the Seahawks.
Hmm.
Mine is Devin Witherspoon because he's just really damn good, and whoever he goes against is my other player to watch. So I'm gonna go with Romeo Dobbs because I think they can handle the big plays. I think they want to eliminate Romeo Dobbs out of this game. But the passing game has like looked fine since what was that, the Niners game he went down. And
Yes.
so I think the game against the Dolphins was fine, but I think you could tell that Romeo Dobbs wasn't there, and you could for sure tell that Romeo Dobbs wasn't there last week against the Lions. And so that matchup will be one to watch because I think both those guys are very, very good. And my other player not to watch, but we haven't talked about this pod yet, is Jaden Reed. Like we haven't seen him at all. We didn't see him at all last week against the Lions, and I forget what his stats were against the Dolphins. I think he had a couple of catches, but not too many. And so getting Jaden Reed back into the mix on this offense is going to be very important. Yeah, Jaden Reed had the 3 catches, 24 yards, and 2 touchdowns against the Dolphins. So more than I remember, but still not involved so much as I would have liked him to be these last few weeks, right? I just think the offense is better when he's the guy getting the ball. And
Yeah.
that wasn't the case last week, which I don't really know why, but he needs to be more involved this week for sure. Honestly, that's who Devin Witherspoon could cover. And if that's the case, then I'm fine with
Yeah.
with that. If he's kind of just locked down this week because you can't help that one or the other. But if Romeo Dobbs and Christian Watson are kind of free reign to do what they need to do along with Tucker Kraft, go for it.
Rob Domofsky had a piece on Jaden Reed's usage and production
I'll have to go read that.
um, that basically summed up everything that you were saying. Parallel thinking in a lot of ways that way.
Wow.
But yeah, I think um I had a point.
About Devin Witherspoon, Romeo Dobbs.
Romeo Dobbs, there we go. Him returning obviously just kind of boosts the pressure or eases the pressure on Watson, Reed to make plays uh immediately. Um yeah, it's another option for Love to turn to when you need to make a play. That
Yeah.
that much is simple. I already went. I want to go for Packers. Who should I say? Let's go Josh Jacobs
All right.
because he's a scoring machine. Um, I agree with you. I think if Packers make any um or come away leaving Seattle with a victory, it's gonna be because of Josh Jacobs, and that's just how it's been, and this is the way that they want to play. He just epitomizes the way that they control games, game plans, all the kind of fun stuff that has made this offense even as frustrated as it can be at times, still thrilling to watch. He's a big part of that reason. So yeah, I think just keep doing what you're doing, and good things will come of it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. All right. Score predictions. I am going to go 27 17 Packers.
I think this is gonna be a weird game. Packers have had weird games in Seattle. Not the, you know,
Yeah,
we can think of the
a, a,
weirdest
a, a
example.
couple of them for sure.
Yeah. Packers. You said Packers 27, Seahawks 17.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna go Packers 24, Seahawks 21.
Wow, close game.
Yeah.
So, all right, folks, that does it for this episode of Talk of the Tundra. Catch us Sunday night. Wow, wow. If that's the case, maybe, just just maybe, another live on the YouTube. YouTube.com/Eurostep Podcast Network. Go subscribe over there to be attuned to when we're going live and catch us after the game there. I'm going to say it right now. 90% sure we'll probably go live after that game. It's just easier for us, production wise, to do that versus record then put it out the next morning. So come join us for what is hopefully a victory podcast over on YouTube. In the meantime, you can go check out gspn.substack.com for this week's cheese board and the write up associated with all of those cheeses that gets released every week with some awesome pictures and some more stats to boot. Uh, with that as well, all the After Dark episodes, they're a lot of fun, folks. I ain't selling you short on that part. $8 a month to go listen to some of those pods if you want to hear what most of us have to say about other random topics, which is always a good time. I believe we're doing a Christmas movie draft soon, and I'm very excited for that one. So, check out all things Bucks over on the Bucks feed with Eurostep and Win in Six. Jordan and Adam released a new Win in Six episode this week, and Ty and I talked Christmas return last week. Was that last week? Yeah, I think it was Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And then Ty just released a new episode talking to the two rookies up in Oshkosh with the G League. So go listen to those interviews as well. Um, all things Brewers over on the Cruising for a Bruising feed, as Willie Damas is sadly officially no longer a Brewer as he signs a very big deal with the San Francisco Giants. And so looking at the state of MLB free agency the last couple of weeks. And then your Junk Drawer pod with make time for this as Oscar season is coming very soon, and those boys will be talking about their Oscar predictions in due time. So, with that, folks, thank you so much for listening. Catch us Sunday night post game over on YouTube. And Jordan, thank you.
Thank you.